Hello, so today we're going to be talking about the main mechanic of set 14, which are hacks. This is going to be a brief introductory guide to a lot of the hacks that exist in the game. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to explain a little bit of the strategies and kind of mindset you might want to have to make the best out of these hacks and to try and have the most impact in your games in order to properly adjust and play around the different hacks and randomness that might come with that. Before we do that, make sure to like and subscribe. I do daily TFT content. Right now, I'm focusing more on just doing more for fun and PvE stuff, mostly prepping for set 14. But once the set actually releases, there could be much more in-depth guides, either on different mechanics of the set, different mechanics of TFT, or different comps, tier list guides, things like that. So if you're a returning viewer that I helped you out in set 13, all the same stuff's going to happen for set 14. Please make sure to like and subscribe because it does help me out as a small content creator. Now, let's talk about hacks. So, what are hacks? Hacks basically could affect many different aspects of the games, and they basically kind of like power up or give you extra resources through the means of adjusting augments to be either stronger or give you more augments, adjusting item drops, giving you extra loot orbs, making it so that you have like lucky shops where you're getting extra units or tailored units in your shop. Many different ways that can basically spritz into the game, and you have to kind of adapt and play around it. And that's a big aspect of it. So if you're not prepared for what is coming in the set, it might be a little bit hard, especially early on. Usually I wait to make these mechanic guides deeper into a set. So right now I'm making it in PvE. This one's going to be like, hacks light, the video, where I'm kind of just like giving you a little bit of introductory tips to it. And then later on, I promise, like maybe in 2 weeks when the set's a little bit has time to linger and we have a lot of time playing on the set, I'm going to make a much more detailed and in-depth, these are the proper strategies. But this one's going to be more like, hey, these are some fun things that you should know about that might help you out a little bit. So let's give an example of a hack and let's talk through it, and you'll get an idea of what this video is going to be about. This is one of the common hacks where you either get to choose one augment that is usually a stronger tier or tier above the other augments, and then or you get to choose two versions of a weaker augment. So in this case, you get one gold augment or two silver augments, and these are your options to pick from. Now, if you're looking at this, it might be very obvious which one to take because depending on what your gold and silver augments are, if your silver augments don't make sense for your board, you probably don't want to click them. If your gold augment doesn't make sense for your board, you probably don't want to click it. But however, if you're in a spot where you're unsure which one is stronger and you're looking, hey, this gold augment makes sense with my board, I might want to take it. These silver augments, both of them together, make sense with my board, I might want to take them. Which one is stronger typically? I would say it's usually the side of the two augments, and I'll tell you why, because we can actually use some examples with some prior augments that existed. So let's take an example of an augment that exists in both silver and gold form. Let's look at mentorship, right? Mentorship, if an ally starts next to a higher cost ally, it gains 10% attack speed and 100 health. So if you had two mentorship ones, right? Like imagine if you got offered two mentorship ones as silver augments in this thought experiment, then you would get 20% attack speed and 200 health. Let's compare it with gold mentorship. So gold mentorship, if an ally starts next to a higher cost ally, it gains 16% attack speed and 220 health. So here, it's pretty comparable. The health is very minimally larger. It's like 10% more health, but the attack speed is much lower, right? Compared to two mentorships, 20 versus 16, that's like almost 25% less. It's more substantially weighted towards, in my opinion, these silver augments. Now, let's take a more clear-cut example, like Glass Cannon. Glass Cannon is usually a little bit more clear, I think, because Glass Cannon 1 was a very strong silver augment. So Glass Cannon 1, you start at 90% health and you gain 15% damage amp. Compare that with Glass Cannon 2, which is the gold version. The gold version starts you at 90% health, but you only get 18% damage amp. It's almost a very minimal and trivial increase for a silver versus the gold. And the idea here that I'm trying to present is just the relative value and the relative power level of the silver augments versus the gold augments. A gold augment isn't 2 times better, is typically not 2 times better than a silver augment. And you can do this comparison with many of the other ones. You can compare it with gold ones that give you gold, ones that give you items, one that give you components, etc. A lot of the time, typically 2 silvers gives you more resources than 1 gold. Now, obviously the silvers have to make sense for you. If the silvers give you stuff that you don't want, like for example, if you really don't need team building, or maybe like, you know, you have a lot of econ and the silver ones are econ augments, obviously don't take augments that don't make sense with your board and don't make sense with your spot. But typically speaking, assuming that the silvers are relatively balanced so that they have the same value or they give the same amount of resources each, typically the 2 silvers is going to be better than the gold, and the same thing applies. 2 golds are going to be better than the prismatic. So if you're debating between the 2 sides, lean on the side of the 2 augments is what I'm trying to say. Now the gold one does give you extra gold a lot of times. The choose one tries to balance it, and I'm assuming over the course of the set they're going to try and balance that, like fine tune it so you get a little bit of extra sauce with the pick one, because it seems a little bit more clear cut when I show you some examples. But either way, that's like an idea of something that you can kind of think about when you're playing towards these. If you're confused, err on the side of the 2 is what my recommendation would be. Next, we're going to talk about other augment buffs, something like black market augments. So typically with black market augments, these ones are the ones that are really strong. Now, these are the hacked augments. This is what it looks like, right? Black market is the one I'm specifically talking about. This little bar at the top can say many different things. It can say econ, it can say power. Like it basically just, what it means is that all the augments in this hacked slot are going to follow this archetype. The archetype doesn't really matter that much. It just kind of like tailors it towards that one archetype. So like, for example, if it was like econ focused, then all of them would kind of give you like econ-y kind of augments or something like that, or it would give you extra gold. A lot of times the hacked spot is the better option because it gives you a little bit extra resource, but it's not that crazy. The only ones that become really crazy are the black market ones, because some of these are game winning. Some of these are like you just win on the spot, and you have to be really aware of that. So a lot of times these prismatics or these black market augments, whichever tier they are going to be stronger than some of the other ones. So I would always lean towards, if you see black market, to kind of say, maybe I can make use of this. Now obviously, like, the same thing applies. If it doesn't fit with your board, right, like if you're playing marksmans, takes the marksman augment. If you're playing this one and you don't have a unit that really needs mana on kill, chances are the black market augment is not going to be that good. So obviously take the one that fits your board the best. Now another tip that I would like to say, just to be really aware and cognizant of your gameplay, I'm going to go through the dev drop here because I haven't had one in my game, but think fast is back in the game, right? I would always be careful about this. So the way Think Fast works, shop rerolls are free until the end of the round. So basically, as fast as your APM is, you can basically hit your board no matter what, and you'll just like instantly win the game if you have really fast APM. This Think Fast augment, what I would suggest is Team Planner, right? Before an augment round, before an augment round, I'm slurring my words, sorry. Before an augment round, always make sure you have an active Team Planner, right? Have that mental checklist in your head, and have that mental note to always have something in your Team Planner. So augments usually happen after a neutral round. Before your neutral round, always make sure to have something in your Team Planner. Does that make sense? That's just a general tip, because if you ever have a hacked augment that hits Think Fast, you want to be ready to instantly click that and just send it, because a lot of times it can help you. So always have something in your Team Planner. That's the other tip for augments. Other than that, nothing really needs like that much of a thing. Use your head, be smart. I trust you guys because you watch my channel. Surely all of you have really good augment evaluation skills, and if not, I have videos on that in, like, you know, in my channel. Check them out. Additionally, now going past augments, there's some things that could cause different shops to work out. So here is an example of a lucky shop augment. So these are lucky shop hack. Now these ones are hard to kind of like play around, but basically what happens with a lucky shop is that all the units that are in your shop will fit with some of the synergies that are on your board. So in this case, in this example, this guy only has Divinicorp active, so all of the units that appear in the shop, the lucky shop, are all Divinicorp units. This can be extremely potent because it basically allows you to hit units that you're already playing. It's hard to play around this because sometimes you're trying to pivot or transition your board or play around different boards earlier rather than later. But if you're playing reroll, this is extremely powerful because it can just give you all the units that you need. And additionally, if you're playing around more narrow comps that have less synergies, you can get a very, very big cash out or bailout. But there's not really much you can do to play around this. It's just a little bit awkward. There's another option where instead of the shop being lucky, you have this chance of an upgraded unit on your left-hand side. On your right-hand side. Now, I don't know exactly how these work, but oh, sorry, my screen is blocking it. Give me 1 second. There we go. But I don't know how exactly these work, but in general, it feels like they're slightly tailored, meaning that they give you a unit that is relevant to your board, either through synergy or otherwise. So a lot of the times you can hit a free 3-star version of a unit that you are playing on your board. This is a hack that appears at the start of the game. So it appears at stage 2, at stage 1, right before the game starts. If you see that you are going to have shops that have upgraded units in your game, I would typically try to play around reroll, or make sure that I know that I have a reroll carry. That's what I would say. Reroll, or a comp that has a 3-star potential, right? So I played a game, for example, it's on my channel, where I played around a Yuumi, like a 3-star Yuumi, that I got through the lucky shops, because I eventually got the Yuumis from these 3-star versions. I was playing around strategists. That's what I mean. You either want to be playing a reroll comp, because you're more likely to hit your 3-star carry or your 3-star frontline, or you want to play around a comp that has a solid carry that is a lower cost unit. So something like strategist has Yuumi. Some of the other comps have Dynamo has Jin, or Marksman has Jin that can do a lot of damage if he's 3-starred. Things like that. Rapid fires have Draven. Things where you can just benefit from having a low cost unit and make sure to have items for them. Another example is like Executioner with Varus, right? If you're playing around an Executioner board, plan to play around having Varus as a secondary carry, instead of focusing so hard on maybe leveling to play around a legendary carry for additional components and items. That's the only thing I can really give for advice. Now, these lucky shops do increase in value, these upgraded units, so it's really easy to get like a 2-star 5 cost. If you're playing around this strategy as well, and you have the potential to do a fast 9 strat, it actually is pretty viable, I think, to do a fast 9 strat, because if you just get like an upgraded legendary, a lot of times you can stabilize pretty hard around that. But I would just be very cautious, because a lot of times the rerollers are going to hit really hard, and that's like the antithesis of a fast 9 strategy. If the rerollers hit everything early and then you're trying to fast 9, you're going to die before you get there. But be aware that that is a viable strategy. If people are playing more towards 4 cost, you can try and tempo to fast 9 to get a 2-star 5 cost as well. Now, we talked about anomalies. We talked about some of the opening encounter stuff. There's some other more for fun situations that could occur in the game as well. So now we're going to talk about some of the for fun. Actually, before we do the for fun ones, let's talk about like one of the more basic ones. So sometimes you might see a hacked orb. Hacked orb is pretty common. So basically what this hacked orb will do, it can either give you items, it can either give you gold, and it could also give you health. Now, this is going to sound really crazy, but it doesn't really matter which one of these you get. It's kind of like all like, yeah, you know, it's all okay. The main thing that really matters here, the main thing that matters is if you get dropped health. Health is the crazy one. So what you want to do here, if you see this orb, this is what you want to do. You want to scout. This is the strategy that I've come up with. This is the Fenrir devised strategy. If you see this orb, you don't touch it. You scout first. You look at everybody else's board first. Why is that? Because the hacked orb has a chance of dropping health. Now, you don't have to pick up the health orb right away, because the health orb just gives you health. The other ones are all fine, right? You can get components that work kind of like Pandora's, so apply the same concept of Pandora's, right? Try not to greed your components too hard. You can get a bunch of gold, you can get some extra items, you can get a bunch of loot orbs. There's lots of stuff you can get. You basically have to just click it and play around it. But what you don't want to do is you want to scout first. If you see that it's a health orb, you don't pick it up, because it will give you a better carousel pick. If everybody in the lobby gets plus 10 health, you can collect your plus 10 health after the carousel. It doesn't matter. You're not going to die on stage 2 and you're not going to die on stage 3. Now, maybe if you're 1 life, pick it up. I'm not saying to sack your game and not pick up the orb ever. What I'm saying is wait till after carousel to pick up the orb, because if you, that little bit of HP that you get from the orb, I think sometimes it's like 10 HP, you can actually earn a carousel pick. This happened to me when somebody went AFK. Somebody didn't like their spot and they went AFK. So the whole lobby picked up their orbs, and that AFK person what's it called? Like, they obviously lost a bunch of HP anyways, but their HP was so dramatically lower that they got first pick on carousel because they didn't have the extra HP. And it made a thing click in my head. It's like, wait a second, if everybody picks up their orb and I don't pick up my orb, I could have had first pick on carousel because I would have had lowest HP. But instead, I wasn't lowest HP because of some other guy, but that's fine, right? Like in that game. But if you're trying to optimize and play really sweaty, make sure to double check first. You don't have to be the first one to pick up the orb. If it's a health one, don't pick it up. Get your carousel pick priority and then pick it up. So that's my word of advice to you guys to help you get the most out of that orb. Now, in terms of some of these other ones, Treasure Dragon. Treasure Dragon has the opportunity to give you a bunch of loot that you can basically roll. I would suggest to do this similar to how I suggest about anomalies, right? Whenever you have an option of, do I take this shop or do I not take this shop, or do I do this or do I do that? The main thing that you always have to ask yourself is, does it apply? Does it fit with my board, right? If this fits with your board, right? Like for example, in this case, it's gold, Spirit of Shojin, and an augment. If it makes sense with your board, just take it. You cannot guarantee that you will hit something better. So as soon as you see something where all the stuff is usable, it doesn't matter if it's BIS, it doesn't matter if it's the best option, it doesn't matter if it's the coolest thing ever. If it fits with your board that it will make your board stronger, you take it. So you look at it, Crown's Will, is that something that's good for my board? Do I need AP? Do I need a rod? If you need a rod and need AP, take this one. If you need a Spirit of Shojin, take this one. If you need 6 gold, take this one. Even if you don't need it, if you can put Spirit of Shojin on a unit that will make an impact on your board, if Crown's Will make an impact on your board, then take it. If not, roll. A lot of times, you're going to see shops like this, and then you're going to roll too deep, and then you might get something you don't like. Look at this shop, right? It's now Silver Glass Cannon, a BF Sword, a lesser dupe, and a bunch of gold. If you don't need gold, this is pretty useless, right? Because Glass Cannon 1 is going to be weaker. It's a silver augment. It's going to be weaker than a gold typically, but it could be really good. A BF Swords, you're not getting a full item anymore. You're getting a lesser duplicator. Now, maybe this is much better. Maybe you needed a duplicator. Maybe you need a bunch of gold. But before you look at these shops, you should kind of close your eyes before you get distracted with all the flashing lights and stuff that is TFT, and think to yourself, what do I really need here, right? Say to yourself, I need a backline item, I need a this, I need a that. Make a list of all your wants and desires, and then open your eyes and roll and look at which one matches what you just said out loud. That's like the best word of advice I can give you. It's the same advice I gave for anomalies in set 13, right? Don't think about what the quote-unquote BIS is. Don't think about what the other person hit that made their board broken. Think to yourself, what does this do for me? Does this actually make an impact on my board? Yes or no? If not, you roll it. So for example, if I don't need the gold, I don't need the duplicator, I don't need Glass Cannon, I move on. Look at this one. Mace's Will, a frying pan, 3 gold. Do I need a frying pan? Maybe. Do I need a cloak? Maybe. Like, you know, it can be anything. These shops can be anything. They can be spats, they can be augments, they can be components. There's so many variations of what it can give you. But a lot of the time, you want to just make sure that you take the thing that best suits what your board is, or you can make the most use out of the 4 things that you are getting offered here. Now, other things that can happen. You can get offered, give me 1 second, extra components. So on these are the carousel, hacked carousels, for example. Hacked carousels, they're kind of annoying, but basically there's nothing you really can do about these ones. These ones are the ones that are like truly random. Basically, you can get a component anvil, you can get an Orn artifact, you can get a completed item. Basically, it's like you get extra resources on the carousel. So just be prepared for that. Don't let it distract you too much from anything. Just still take the unit and the component that you want, and then try and make use out of the extra resource that you get. Now, I think I have 2 more hacks that are maybe the big ones that I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to go through them right now. Just give me 1 second to set it up, because these ones are from some of my games that I was trying and VOD review. There we go. So we have these ones are an example of eggs. So basically each of these eggs, let me just lower the volume here so I don't interrupt myself. The eggs, basically there are 3 different egg options that it can give you. So these are eggs kind of like the, see, as you can see, it just appears at the start of the round. So basically you get a 4-round egg, a 9-round egg, and a 13-round egg. And the idea is that these eggs work similar to the egg augment that you get, the prismatic one, except a 4-round one will be 4 rounds, 9 will be 9 rounds, and the 13 round will be similar to that other augment where it gives you the 13 round cash out. So as you can see, the 4-1 gives you like, I think it's like 15 gold. 9 egg gives you like 25 gold worth of loot. And then the 13 round gives you 40 gold worth of loot. Now, I've played this game through, and I took the 4-round egg here because I'm a wuss. And as you can see, I had really low HP, and I wasn't sure how strong my board was. So I took the 4-round egger, just to make sure that I cashed out early. What I would suggest, this one kind of sucks, to be honest. I don't like this this hack, but basically, always take the egg that you think that you can afford to take, which sounds like really bad advice, but typically if you're high rolling and you're in the lead, just take the 14 round one. The 14 round one drops you some crazy shit. Like, I watched like another dude on this game, like, I don't know if I can find it here, like, exactly. Where is it? Like, they had like look, this is me with my 4-round egg, and I got like an extra item. Like, I got 1 extra item. And then like everybody else took a 13 egger, and this guy has like an extra radiant item, and the other guy had like 2 Orn artifacts or something. Like, it was some crazy crap. So like, I definitely fell off late game because of it. So what I would suggest with the eggs is 2 things, right? 2 things, right? Take larger if you can, right? Because the small egg is pretty bad, right? Try and take the 9 or the 13 round for sure. The other thing of advice is scout and match the opponents, right? What happened this game is that everybody else took a 13 rounder. So me taking the 4-round egg didn't matter because I cashed out early for nothing. Like, it literally gave me nothing. But the 13 rounders, they all cashed out because none of them got a power spike, right? The main idea with the eggs is that if you take a lighter egg, you're getting a power spike a little bit earlier, which can help you to get placements. If you take the later egg, you're risking not cashing it out because you're delaying your cash out. If you look at your lobby and the whole lobby is taking 13 eggs, there's no need for you to power spike your board because the whole lobby isn't power spiking. That's something that I figured out because I'm a dumbass and I didn't figure it out the first time. You have to scout first, right? Scout, see what eggs everybody else is taking. If you want, you can try and blindside them. Like, if everybody's taking a 13 rounder, you can take a 9 rounder to make sure that you spike a little bit earlier to have a little bit of an HP lead on your lobby. But there's no need for you to play super conservatively unless you're in a really bad spot. If everybody is taking a long-term cash out egg, just match them. Match them, you'll all cash out at the same time, approximately, and it will be fine. Because, like, there's no need for you to be the one person who's playing safe when everybody else is not spiking their board, right? If everybody's playing greedy, you play greedy as well. That's like the main idea with the egg. Additionally, there is the Golem, which I want to show you guys. So the Golem is another type of hack that can occur, which appears right here. Right about here. So I'm just going to show you what the Golem looks like. So basically you have 3 options. You have a frontline tank, a backline attacker, or a gold generation golem. Now the golems always appear. This is something that it tells you at the start of the game that you're going to get a golem. If it tells you at the start of the game that you're getting a golem, it's always going to happen towards the end of stage 4. Now, being at the end of stage 4, there is some things that are a little bit better than others. When you're thinking about gold generation is significantly better when it's earlier in a game. Gold generation is not very good late game. So what I would suggest, unless it gets changed or buffed or altered in some different way, I would not be thinking about the gold generation. The gold generation is a little bit of a toss. It's a little bit of a throw because it's kind of like you're trying to like fast 9, fast 10 at this point. You don't really need to generate gold at this point in the game. You're better off just taking a frontline or a backline attacker. The gold generation, like I said, if it was earlier in the game, it matters a lot. Gold late game, by this time, your board should be mostly complete. You should have mostly a good strategy about what you're doing here. Unless you're really far ahead, you're probably going to grief way more placements taking the gold generation than taking the other 2 because it just doesn't do as much as the other 2, especially because it's late game. Now, between the 2 of them, I usually err on the side of taking, sorry, not this one. Oops. I usually err on the side of frontline tank. So basically both of these have a bunch of Ornn artifacts attached to them, and they're either like Giga Tank Ornn artifacts or Giga Backline Attacker Ornn artifacts, like fish bones, like the whole garbage and everything. I would suggest usually erring on the side of frontline tank, because if you have a more stable front line, you will be able to do more damage with your backline. That's typically how that works. Now, the backline attacker is pretty good. So if you're playing a deep vertical trait, so for example, if you're playing 6 Vanguard, if you're playing 6 Sentinel, if you're playing something where you have a lot of front line, that you don't need more front line, then obviously take the backline attacker. But if you're just looking for one and you're like unsure which one to take, you're like, I don't know if I want front line or backline here, I don't know which one I need, err on the side of caution. Front line, more front line is typically a little bit safer. It's typically a little bit safer because if your front line lives, your back line also lives, right? If your front line dies, the chances are your back line is going to die before they can compensate for the damage, right? Especially this backline attacker. This guy has a Gwinsu, right? So one of his items is dedicated towards ramping up. One of this golem's items is a ramp up item. If he doesn't have time to ramp up, what are you going to do? You're going to lose. So the front line, that's what I mean. It's always safer. A safer pick is the frontline tank option. So there we have it. We went through a bunch of the hacks. This was a little bit of a thrown together kind of video. I know there wasn't a PowerPoint, it wasn't super pretty, but hopefully I gave you some advice to kind of get you started on the set. Like I said, I'm kind of saving up all my energy to do a bunch of guides start of set 14 release. So that's going to be online starting next week, which is in a couple days. So starting on, Monday, I'm already going to be starting to do back to the regular style of guides that are much more informative and a lot more detailed. So look forward to those. Hopefully this was fun and enjoyable, and a little bit of a short introduction to hacks, as well as some early strategies and some ways of evaluating how to deal with the different information that you get dumped on you with all these extra random elements to look at. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and see ya. Bye-bye.